is how do you add images? So instead of drawing with like circles, ellipses, things like that, you could actually make an image into one of your brushes. So there's a little bit of background work that you need to do. You need to find an image online, and I think it works best if you remove the background. So you select the background, you delete it, and then you save it as a PNG. You also want to make sure you've checked the size. So image size, and resolution should be 72, and I'm going to make it a little smaller, more like 150 pixels. So I've done that, and then I'm going to make sure I am saving it as a PNG. It certainly can work as a JPEG, but the PNG is so I can preserve the transparency. So if I got rid of the white background, it just makes for a more interesting brush if I'm painting with, let's say, like the cat's tail versus just the outline of the square. All right, so I just need to save this in a place where I will remember, and I need to make the name something very simple because I have to type it in. So if you have a weird name, even with copy, I would suggest getting rid of it. So I've saved it in the format PNG after I got rid of my background and I resized it, and now I'm going to hit save. And cat 2, yes, replace it. Okay, so now in processing, I need to save this sketch right away. That's kind of like to be able to get the images to work. That is important. So I'm going to save it as, and I'm going to call this image practice. So if you got lost on any of the steps about saving the image, removing the background, don't worry. You just need an image, and you need to have it saved, and it has to be either a JPEG or a PNG, and you can get this to work. All right, so there's actually about 4 steps you have to do here. And I do have a PowerPoint. So the first thing I have to do is I have to add my sketch. So I go up to sketch. Sorry, I have to add my image. I go up to sketch, add file. And this is where I'm going to browse and look for the file I've just added, which in my case is called cat2. And I hit open. Nothing here looks like it changes, but if I go up to sketch, show sketch folder, it actually just created a folder for me called data, and my cat image is in there. Copy and paste it in there. So something did happen. Okay, so now the next thing is we haven't talked about variables yet. A variable is basically a placeholder for something, and in processing there are several different types of variables. One type of variable is for a placeholder for images. And this is actually going to be the first time that we're going to have code outside of our code blocks. So I am above the setup, and I'm writing P image. So the P is capitalized and the I is capitalized. They're both capitalized. So P image, and notice it turns orange, which means it's like part of a system, the system function, space. And now I'm going to give it a name, whatever I want to call this. So I have to initialize my variable as a type. And this is the type of P image. And then I declare it, and to declare it, I know it sounds very formal, but I just give it a name. So I'm just going to call it cat, but you could call it Bob's hot dog stand. You can call it whatever you want. And now in my setup, I'm going to load the image. So I'm going to have cat equal load image, and then in quotes, my file, exactly the file format and the spelling that you had. Oh, wasn't mine called cat2? I think it was called cat2. Yeah, so you got to make sure if this is not right, if you forget their extension, if you misspell it, if you put in the wrong extension, anything like that, processing will just spin and spin. So at this point, you could just press play and see that you don't get any error messages, but you're not going to see the image yet. So that's good. At least I didn't get error messages. So now to see the image, we're going to do this in the draw. So we're going to call a function called image, and what we're calling is whatever we called our variable, what we declared it as up here and here. So again, we're saying I'm using a variable, which is just a placeholder. I'm calling it or declaring it at cat, and then down here I say cat equals the name of my file. So here it's going to be cat, and then my X and Y coordinates, which I want to be able to draw with it. So I'm just going to leave it like that. And now I can draw with my cat. Notice that my mouse is like off to the side. So I could put that in the center if I do image mode center. That could help. So now my cursor will be in the middle of the image. That like works a little bit better. And then obviously we want to wrap this in some like key presses. So if key, pressed, and that's my first one. So now it only happens on a key press. And then I could specify a specific key. If key equals A, for example, and wrap it in that. So now, oops, this will only happen when I press A. So now maybe you can imagine how you could have a whole bunch of different images and have them on the different keys, and those could be the brushes. All right, that concludes all of the lectures for this portion.